Hi, hello YouTubers. Today we're going to discuss how to set up the pitch of a small 400 class helicopter. You'll have to forgive me, I've never done a video tutorial before, but we'll give it a shot. So anyways, basically what we're going to try to do is set this little pitch slider here in relationship with the blades, main rotors, flybar paddles, linkage to the servo, and try to make them all work correctly with the radio. Okay, so here we are. The very first thing you wish to do when you're going to start playing with the pitch of a helicopter is to disconnect the motor so that you don't run into problems with things hitting you in the face. So you notice I've put some colors on mine so that when I can reconnect and disconnect, I don't have any rotational problems. I don't have the motor spinning backwards. Now this really only applies to brushless motors. When you use a brushed motor, just disconnect the motor completely from the speed controller and you shouldn't have any problems. So, the very first thing you're going to do is turn your radio on. So, make sure your radio is in normal mode. So that's idle 1. Or not idle up, standard idle. Normal mode. Make sure your throttle is completely at 0. Get your radio on. Make sure all your messages are cleared. Everything's straight. Then at that time, plug your little helicopter in. You should now have radio control over your helicopter, so just check that. Okay, so I don't know if this is a rule or not, but I do it myself. I always rotate the servos around just to make sure everything's moving correctly and leave it in center. Now, to set your pitch, I want you just to roll the throttle up to the mid position and change over to your idle up 1 or your 3D position. So now your helicopter's in 3D, and you'll notice that if you watch the pitch slider, it'll go into a negative pitch and a positive pitch. So set that on your transmitter so it's exactly in the center. See that? Okay. Also, some guys will tell you to trim this down. I haven't had very good success with that. I trim to the center for setup. Works much better for me. Alright, so the very first thing you want to do is check your servo. Your servo should be midstream on the servo so that you get the most mechanical advantage when you go up or down. Now no servo runs perfectly true, so just try to get it as close to center as you can. There is a means of getting it correct, but we won't get into that because you have to dismantle the servo, and that's really not as much fun as it sounds like. Okay, so now you've got your servo in the center, your transmitter in the center, you're in 3D mode, your blades should be sitting at exactly 0 pitch. So the first thing you want to do is get the pitch slider in the center, because of course you need to have equal pitch up and down if you're ever going to compete 3D or use any 3D. So you'll notice right now that my pitch slider is actually way too high, and I'm showing a very positive pitch even though my transmitter is in the middle, my servo is in the middle, pitch slider is way too high. So what's going to happen is I'm going to be exerting far too much force on the blades. The helicopter is going to lift too early and your head speed is going to be too low for adequate control. I'm going to go into it how I know this, but you probably figured that part out already. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach inside there. If you look carefully, you'll see that there's actually a little tiny nut on the bottom of your pitch slide rod. I have no idea if that's really what it's called, but we're going to call it that for today. So you hold the little bugger with a pair of pliers so you don't damage the rod. Get your little Allen key, came with it, or if you have one, just loosen that up. Okay, so you can see, nice and free. what I'm going to do now is I go up here to the pitch slider. I'm going to center the pitch slider exactly in the slot. Okay, so I mean you won't get it exact. Get it as good as you can. You want the same amount of gap on the top as you have on the bottom, and you can be virtually sure that you're pretty much centered out on the pitch slider. Okay, so we've got our pitch slider centered. So I'm going to go back down and relock the nut like so, and just loosely lock it for now. Okay, so now we've got the slider in the center, we've got the servo in the center,